Hi guys, welcome in. Today we have a very interesting topic and regards FIRE. This financial independence, retire early. This concept, and together with Ben, I wanted to bring this discussion on how this couple, who's only of the age of 33 and 35 respectively, they've managed to achieve FIRE. So the title reads, Early Retiree Shares 13 Stupid Simple Money Rules That Help Him Save $1 million, even though he wasn't born rich. Now, my first question, maybe I'll lead to pass to Ben on it is, do you think 1 million is enough in Singapore's context?
Personally, I feel that it is enough. Of course, this varies from individual to individual depending on your spending needs. But I think if you were to work it out based on the 1 million pot, maybe a 5% dividend yield, I think it is very doable. That's probably around 50,000 a year, which I feel is very doable if you actually live within your means.
50,000 a year, I think it needs to support for both, right? Since the story regards husband and wife. 50,000 for two packs, which means
I think it goes down to whether they have any big outstanding loans and if they have like any children as well. So if they do, then probably it's going to be a bit harder. But I feel that, yeah, of course, this varies from individual to individual, like I mentioned.
So what will you think will be the biggest critic out there? They will say, hey, 1 million is not enough. What do you think? Maybe no kid. I think that suddenly sprung to my mind. Oh, they don't have children. That's why $1 million for financial independence is enough. Cost 50,000, right? Correct? Passive income. But if you have kids, how to save 1 million? Very difficult. Or 50,000 from passive sources cannot be sufficient. That was the first point that came to my mind.
Yes, I guess when kids come into the picture, that totally changes the numbers a little bit.
Yeah, so usually when we put a number there, 1 million, people who quite far from that number, they feel a bit discouraged, they feel a bit offended. So, as listeners, if you are hearing in, let that be an anchor. But again, financial dependence really depends on your expenses. If you're frugal, you don't need too much for expenses. Maybe 1 million is not necessarily a number you must get. On the other hand, if you are high income, then you think 1 million cannot too little for your own, then maybe it's also your lifestyle expectation that is different from this case. But let's proceed on with today's discussion, which is from this couple. It is indeed true that they don't have kids, but they've also done certain steps well. And let's listen to some of their rules, which is going to start with this. The first one that he suggested is that ignore the advice of following your passion. And they actually made good enough money being in the IT space, making more than 100,000 annual income before they actually did the early retirement. So, Benedict, what are your thoughts on ignoring your passion?
Yeah, so I recently been hearing a lot of talk about, in the finance space especially, about following your passion. And I feel that at times it's good to have your passion, but sometimes the passion might not pay. So take for example, if you're an artist or a musician. In the Singapore context, artists and musicians don't really earn a lot. And sometimes they might not even be able to earn enough to actually satisfy their basic needs. So I feel that when trying to follow your passion, you need to have a certain level of basic need that is being met at the fundamental level before actually pursuing this kind of advice.
I think a good point is, just now you mentioned about someone who likes music. For every JJ Lin that Singapore has produced, there are 1,000 singers that have joined singing shows and couldn't, have a sustaining career. So very often we see the exception. And of course, JJ Lin is making a big ton of money, but he's probably the exception. I think the nearest story is Jeff Ng, right? Have you seen that whole saga of Jeff Ng?
Yes, correct. I think recently he became very big after the Cathay incident. And but there was some not very good news about him as well with regards to his personal life.
But actually he's a good example of following passion. If we disregard what has been mentioned on his personal life, he's someone who stuck to his passion for many years, probably underpaid as a very good singer, then struck fame, or finally the passion rewarded him big. Unfortunately, now there's some issues with it. But also the point, following your passion, if we were to be realistic, it's not so easy also. We have parents to support, we have children for some. So it's true, following your passion is not easy. But let's move on to the second point, which I find it a very intriguing point, which is to learn from millionaires. That's the second rule that he's mentioned. What are your thoughts, Ben?
I think not just learn from millionaires, but I think there are some lessons that you can learn even from people who are not millionaires, but maybe they are like 1 to 2 steps ahead of you in wherever you want to be. So what we can do is probably model after millionaires, but not just any millionaire, but actually those self-made millionaires. So take for example, Cristiano Ronaldo. So his rise from rags to riches is actually something that he achieved through his own hard work. And that is something that I actually respect a lot.
Hey, then what about personal life-wise? Any friends or relative that comes to your mind that you believe are good role models for yourself? Anyone?
Personally, I have my own personal mentor who actually just founded his startup. And I feel that he is someone that is probably like a few steps ahead of me and someone that I could learn a lot from.
That's good. That's good. Learning from millionaires gives a different perspective. Maybe it sometimes challenges your thought process, reduces your limitation because sometimes you think cannot be achieved or annual income this level you feel, hey, can it be done? Sometimes someone who is a few steps ahead, they can tell you, hey, this is actually a mental block. So that's why I also think when we talk to millionaires, that is something that we can learn. And also regarding the Cristiano Ronaldo story, I came across this image before on Riyad Mahrez, and he's also a footballer in Manchester City. And this very interesting point whereby he actually is a very frugal person. Don't know if it's a joke or not, but he didn't change his phone when it was damaged. So that story goes that his new teammate is now trying to clown him like, hey, bro, you have the money. Why are you still using a broken phone? Kind of thing. So millionaires,
he earns more than 100k pounds a week.
A week. So a phone is like peanuts. But also the point of being frugal. When you have wealth, if you spend everything, you can be like Mike Tyson, you blow away all your fortune. Or you can be frugal. Things that are material, you don't need to haggle too much about it and worry too much whether it looks nice or not. And if we were to continue the story on this retiree, what he has shared, because he has also had his own mentors. But the third point also is something interesting, which is to cut away losers from his life. Now, what he has actually shared is that there were people or colleagues that were introducing him to drinking culture and stuff. I think his suggestion is to stick with the right crowd, people who are on board with financial independence. Then very soon you get your thought process resonated with them. And I've also heard this saying, you are the average of your 5 closest people, which means if your friends are complaining about government at the bar, very soon we'll also be complaining about government at the bar. But that also needs to balance with social life. So don't miss out on social activities. But on the other hand, if you spend too much time at a bar, you might be reinforcing wrong thought processes and you don't have time to commit to productive things. So the fourth rule that's mentioned also in this article, which we'll leave links below, regards exploiting his 9-to-5 job. Previously he was in corporate world. So he exploited that. He's actually earned pretty well as well as tapped on the benefits that the company provided. So if there are any points that you like to add or not, Benedict?
Yeah, so for me personally, if you are 9-to-5, probably something that you can take advantage of if your employer offers it is probably stock options. I think that's a good way.
With that, we'd like to introduce to you today's sponsor, who is Weibo. And right now, they have a new offer. Just by signing up the account, you get $8.88 worth of Meta shares. And if you make a deposit of $1,965 and above, and start trading on a platform, you can get up to $100 worth of Google shares. This promotion is closing soon by 1st of September. So if you're keen, look for this QR code or check out the links below to sign up today.
And also to take advantage of all the education and training that the company actually provides to actually increase your knowledge. And hopefully, with that increased knowledge, you can find a higher paying job in the future. Another advantage of working a 9-to-5 is you have some staff benefits like medical, whereas if you are a self-employed like a Grab driver, this is something that you will not get to enjoy.
Totally. So Benedict, you are with an American firm, right?
Yes, that's right.
Health benefit-wise, you have a card that gives you GP clinics free visit.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, it's
and
true.
We also have dental as well.
So I've always had this thinking, for someone that couldn't find a big corporate job, even working at NTUC FairPrice or Sheng Siong, they actually do provide certain benefits also versus working Grab driving or Grab riding. And with that, let's move on to the rule that he changed companies 5 times in the last 14 years, moving around. And at each place, he received a pay increment. So with that, Benedict, what are your thoughts or what you see on the ground?
Yeah, for me, it's good. It's good to constantly change companies and look for new opportunities. But I think the issue is also, in the past, people used to stay at the same company for like years and decades. And those who actually change companies were viewed very negatively as like job hoppers. But however, nowadays, we are seeing more and more people changing jobs after every like 1-2 years. This is both good and bad. Good is that you get to experience new opportunities, new cultures. But at the same time, it's worth noting that you have to make sure that you actually learn enough, boost your knowledge enough in your current job before thinking of jumping. because sometimes the grass is not always
Hmm.
greener on the other side.
Agree fully on it. Sometimes a job change also brings about more stress. You join a company and then the culture doesn't really fit. Maybe the pay is a bit better, but there's also certain pains to it. But I guess the message also is going to be able to help, especially fresh graduates coming to the workforce. Keep learning, be ready to take on new challenges, network so that you get more opportunities, and if they come about, be ready to embrace them. So let's move on to the sixth rule that our author has shared today, that he's automated everything. And this has helped him become a millionaire in his 30s. I automate some of the gyro bills. Running a household, there's power bills and there's telco bills. What are your thoughts on this automation process?
I think automating is very good because automating everything actually frees up mental space for you to focus on more important tasks in your life. So you don't have to try to remember what bill do I need to pay today, bill do I need to pay tomorrow. So in terms of investing, automating your investments also removes that kind of emotions. So you don't have to worry about, should I buy at this price? Is the price going up? Is the price going down? So when automating, you can do it like a DCA every month. You actually automate it, and you don't have to worry about if the price goes up or down.
DCA is dollar cost averaging.
So this is why we see like those CEOs like Mark Zuckerberg, they actually wear the same like t-shirts every day. So he doesn't have to spend time on thinking about what to wear on a daily basis. And this helps him actually to free up mental space to actually focus on building his business and growing his company.
I think this mental headspace is a good point. I've heard of a theory before called decision fatigue, something like that, which means every person, we have ability to make maybe 5 good decisions a day. Then after that, we kind of get tired. So we need to prioritize what are important decisions to make for the day. But I also like to expand on that concept just now on dollar cost averaging that you mentioned, Ben. What do you dollar cost average as of right now? Anything to share on it?
Yeah, so for me, I haven't really got around to automating the investments, but probably the dollar cost average that I do would be on like a broad-based market index fund. So for example, you can either use SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF, or VTI, which is a Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. Yep. So these two are the things that I would prefer if you were to dollar cost average.
I think robo portfolios, robo platforms, they can help you do automation. Nowadays, there are quite a few big brands over there, but many people actually see that value. You automate it, you get your new incomes coming in, and then you send maybe 500 or 1,000 there. And then just now we mentioned about mental headspace. Don't need to think about it. Just continuously buy the market, especially if you're also young working it out. And when it comes to this part on being young, we always want to feel that we have gotten things right. We are on the right side of the crowd. And that leads to the next point also that the author has mentioned, that he has learned to ignore the haters in his journey towards building financial freedom. And ignoring haters comes from the fact that he's mentioned he declined drinks with friends. Of course, some friends are going to say not so nice things because he's a bit different. In your journey, have you had to handle haters or not?
So far, I have received, because I also write an investment newsletter, and I've actually received one negative comment, which is like, it goes something along the lines of like, who are you trying to be, like a wannabe investor? That kind of thing. So, but I feel that I don't really take to heart these kind of comments, because I feel like the more you grow, the more people will hate you, because the more you will actually get to, people actually don't really like people who are like different from them. So I feel that as you are growing, you'll tend to be different from the majority of the people, which naturally will tend to attract more people, more haters.
Correct. I agree with that. The large part of it can be explained also when we mentioned you need $1 million. I believe some who are hearing this naturally feel criticized because they are not too near the target. They can't save so much. They believe this is only for high income. You're high income. I don't have that high income. I can't achieve that. So when that difference is clear, right, there comes the jealousy, there comes the resentment also. So it's true. If you want to improve, hearing some hates are part of the journey. And always treat them as part of the learning process. And if we move on to the next point on how to become financially independent early, this is something that I resonate a lot with, which is what is mentioned. I ignore the Jonas. Now, we've all heard of this concept whereby you compare with your sibling, your neighbors, your colleague buys a new car. We all feel that we need to upgrade and stuff. And on this channel, we've covered before. On previous case studies, you can check links above, that some who have fallen into the trap of lifestyle creep tend to start spending more as they have earned more income. So regarding this point, Ben, what what do you think we should share with our audience?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is to actually compare yourself against yourself. So probably to compare yourself now against what were you probably 1 year ago, instead of trying to compare to others. Don't buy things to please people that you don't like, because there may be certain other factors to take into consideration that you might not know about. For example, this person might be taking on huge debt to purchase this new car or new house. So you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So don't try to copy them. And also to focus on your own financial goals. As long as you're on the right track, I think you're fine. Doesn't matter if you have like more or less than this person.
Because
Yeah.
financial
So
independence requires
Mm.
us to keep expenses moderated, correct? The growth of it. So if we
Yeah.
chase lifestyle expectation, big holiday, big car, naturally those are anchors. Those weigh down on our speed, unless you don't mind retiring at 65. If you're also on board with retiring early, this is a small price to pay.
sometimes it might not be easy because it might be part of your environment and social circle. So sometimes I understand that it might be easier said than done also.
Correct. In my wife's circle, maybe I can share a quick story. My wife is in healthcare, and in that space, unlike banking, where most ladies dress up well, I think we can see that in Raffles Place. In my wife's sector, they don't spend too much in dressing, but they spend a lot in dining. They go eat quality food. They spend on cars. They spend on houses. So there's a different way to express that wealth. I think maybe also for pilots. I've also covered a story before of pilots. They drive BMW, they buy big landed properties, and it's a social circle thing among pilot friends. They hear and share what is their approach, and very soon each and everyone faces certain pressure in terms of upgrading lifestyle. But always when it comes to upgrading lifestyle, there's a cost. You take on liabilities and stuff, and that leads to the next point also on how the author has suggested we need to prioritize open communication. I like that point a lot. Something we've shared on this channel, which is when you have a spouse, both should be seeing financial independence together. Cannot be one reach fire and then the other one is still not on board. Usually it's together. If not, there'll be incongruence. So open communication is very important. I think it's a topic we've covered on a previous episode. You can check it out with links above. On this case study of a couple who has certain incongruence, they need to find a middle ground on how to upgrade their life together and how to bring up their young kids. And with that, let's move on to the next point, which is to prioritize health. This is something that's mentioned also by the author as the rule number 10. What are your thoughts on prioritizing health, Ben?
Yeah, I think health is very important because without health, like having all the wealth in the world doesn't really mean anything if you cannot enjoy it, right? I think people already know this, but it's just to eat better and actually exercise regularly. I think there are some apps that could actually help you to hold you accountable to actually exercise for those who are a bit more lazy and not very keen to exercise like me. So I think one of the apps is like ClassPass, which actually is like a monthly subscription kind of thing to actually help you to get moving. So you have to book classes. If not, your credits are going to expire. And the other one is way better as well, which is like an app that it's not just for exercise. It's for actually mindfulness as well. So it actually keeps you accountable because you actually bet a certain amount. And if you don't accomplish that task, you will not get your money back. And the last one is actually Lumi Health. So Lumi Health actually collaborates with Apple and HPB, Health Promotion Board. So they actually give you like certain incentives to complete certain tasks that are related to exercise.
I think getting health in order is very important also. In a sense, when we get to financial dependence, we want to do things we like. We want to pursue and have the energy to pursue interests. So if we think of that and we prioritize that, and if you're unhealthy, you realize you can't achieve it, which means if you are sick, you can't travel that much. So yes, get a balance, reach financial independence, and yet have the energy to enjoy the journey as well as the fruits of it. So with that, let's move on to rule number 11, which is something suggested by author, and it reads, to avoid credit card debt. Now, he comes from America where credit spending is huge over there. In my social circle, most are quite prudent. But again, different background, different spending habits. For myself, I also avoid credit card debt. I use credit cards. My favorite is OCBC 365. I clock the 800 and my wife's 800 and kind of hold back on purchases from there. So credit cards are important. They help you to, manage your cash and get certain cashbacks. Some people chase miles with it. In any case, we have also something to suggest, which is under the Citibank. check out the links below. This is a promotion with Citibank, and you can actually get $350 in terms of cash sign up, of course, with terms and conditions for new customers to Citibank. But for Ben, what cards do you use on your own?
For me, I mainly use DBS Altitude, which is like a mouse card. And I also do have like a Standard Chartered cashback card. Yeah. So these are the two main cards that I actually use. I try not to have too many different cards because sometimes it might be a little bit difficult to track in terms of paying your outstanding balance. So for me, I actually pay the full balance every time I receive my credit card bill so that I don't incur interest charges.
And since you're using both, what is your thoughts on miles versus dividend cashback?
To me, I feel that there is not a lot of difference. It depends on your lifestyle. If you're someone who likes to travel a lot, or if you're someone who do actually have to travel a lot for certain reasons, then maybe miles might be more suitable. But if you prefer to have like cashback, then yeah, probably the Standard cashback card is probably more suitable for you.
So on your own, roughly how much are you spending? Curious question. Because Ben, you're single.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really spend a lot. So probably less than 1,000 a month.
So mainly that's regarding dining expenditure on credit card.
Yeah, dining and certain bills, allowance as well. So that's like the main categories that I actually spend on.
For myself, I mentioned just now we have this $800 limit in 365 OCBC. But also when we do an audit, I realize on average we spend 1,000, slightly more than that as of right now. Two cards rather, myself one and my wife one, more than 1,000 on average in terms of credit card. But that also does not include other expenditure on GrabPay and cash. Because for dining right now, I have two other small kids on board, so it gets a bit more expensive. And with that, let's move on to the next rule that our author has to suggest, which is to saying yes all the time. Now, his story is that his company offered him a pay raise with a new position. There was some restructuring in the company and he accepted that job. So what are your thoughts on this point of he always said yes?
I think it's good to say yes to something that you feel that maybe will help you to grow. But of course, don't say yes to every single thing because you might not have the time and energy for it. My take is to learn to say yes to something that feels a bit scary and a bit outside your comfort zone. So for example, like coming onto YouTube now, this is something that is a bit outside my comfort zone for me. And also another thing is putting myself out there on social media. That's also not something that I'm not really that comfortable with. But I try to do it on a consistent basis. And that's actually how, by spending a little bit outside your comfort zone, I think that's actually how you grow in the long term.
Then with regards to your corporate career progression, if you were offered a team lead position sometime down the years, what are your thoughts on it? Or will you be afraid of saying yes to that?
I think if I were to be offered such a role, I think I would be okay with taking up the challenge. Because I feel that with a team lead role, it can actually help me to build up my leadership skills. And also to help me manage people of different backgrounds, different cultures. So I feel that it's a good learning exposure for me.
What if you're offered an overseas position? If we pivot that topic a bit differently, if you're offered an overseas position, will you be open to it?
Yes, actually. Actually, for the longest time, I have been wanting to actually explore working overseas.
Oh.
Yeah, because I think that's something that's like an adventure and something that is worth experiencing at least once in a lifetime. Because once you actually start a family, I think it's a bit harder to relocate. So I think for me, I feel like that now is a very good time because I don't have a family and it's actually a good time for me to explore this option.
I think there are two kinds. One is you permanently relocate. That means take a position in America, New York, and go there for years with no intention to come back. And then there's another one where you go for exchange kind of thing. Have you seen such opportunities? Like if you can go to the other office for a year, does your company offer something like that?
For my current position, not that I know of, but there may be opportunities for me to work in Hong Kong because we actually do liaise and work with the Hong Kong office quite a bit. So it's like a combined Singapore and Hong Kong team. So there might be opportunities in the future when Hong Kong actually opens up.
Yeah, now working conditions in Hong Kong, that's a sticky point. But also something thought of a story. My friend works with a Japanese firm and he actually did a 9-month stint, if I'm not wrong, just like an exchange kind of thing. So he went to the Tokyo office for 9 months. And I think it was a pretty good experience. You build your resume, that's one thing. And then you get a new role within a company that gives you more exposure to different portfolios, and you always help in terms of promotion wise. And when he was in Japan, he had to do a lot of drinking also, and like because Japan after hours, there's
Yeah, a lot of
drinking
drinking
culture.
cultures there. Yeah.
Correct. And that also leads to the 13th rule that our author has to suggest, which is he stopped going to bars. He's mentioned that occasionally he does go, but when he realized that it's costing him a lot of money, and when you compound monies, few $100s a month, you invest it properly, you compound it, the gap becomes very big. So I agree with that. Going to bars, it's kind of like a habit. And very soon you build that habit. You realize your credit card bill starts to rake up very quickly. So what is the culture like, or what are your thoughts on drinking?
For me personally, I feel that in every job that it seems like drinking is a culture that is like becoming more prevalent. And I feel that there's some level of drinking like to be done in every job. And sometimes it's also part of the job. So for those who like drinking, you still can go for it, but of course do it in moderation, because alcohol spending will actually build up, and the habit will actually build up as well. So do it occasionally and don't let it become a habit.
So if you work from home, then no need to go down for that drinking session, is it? Or do you still need to join the team if they're meeting at a bar?
Actually, I'm quite lucky because my team don't really drink that much or that often. Probably like maybe once every month or two. So it's not really that often. It's not like every week kind of thing. But I've seen like in my previous roles, you do actually go out for drinks like quite often, like every Friday kind of thing. So
Finance role, is it your previous one? Was it in the finance industry?
Yeah, it's like a finance / accounting role as well. So they do actually drink quite often. So yeah, but I mean for me, I don't really drink a lot. So, and I don't really enjoy drinking. So yeah, that probably helps a little bit. But for those who like drinking, I mean, probably you could find like cheaper alternatives. Like instead of going to a bar, maybe try a less expensive option, such as like buying back drinks home to actually spend time together with your friends or family.
Understand. So with that, let's recap the 13 rules that our author has shared. And as always, anyone listening in, if you agree or disagree with any points, leave them in the comment sections. Let's recap. The first one is you may not need to follow your passion. That's something that he suggested as rule number 1. Because if you follow your passion blindly, it may not pay the bills. The second is to learn from millionaires. I think that's something that we both resonate with. We both have our own people that we look up to. And if you're looking for someone to mentor you, you always need to network and look for someone that can really show you some steps ahead. The third is to cut away losers from his life. That's a third rule. The fourth was to exploit the benefits of the corporate world. Healthcare benefits, stock employee benefits, something that Benny has shared. The fifth rule was to switch companies when the time comes also, not job hop too much. He's changed companies, taken promotions. The sixth rule is to automate everything, something that we both have shared. You can automate your investments, you can automate your bills. Then with that, you free up your head space. The seventh rule is to ignore haters. In part of your progress, you'll see people who differ. And if they throw shade at you, it's part of the journey. Focus on what you want and stick with the right crowd, because you're always the average of the 5 people closest to you. Number 8 regards lifestyle creep, ignoring the Jonas. Number 9 rule is to have open communication. I think that works in big ways within a couple setting. Number 10 is to prioritize health. You want to get a financially independent, healthy. In any case, if you are unhealthy, you rake up medical bills, and that causes your expenses to inflate also. For someone with diabetes, any treatment, you realize that is out of pocket by big amounts. Then number 11 rule is to avoid credit card debt, because credit card debts, they have a very high interest to it. As best you can fully pay things off. Number 12 rule is to say yes, especially if opportunities come on board, whether it's a local promotion or overseas role that can help you in resume. Be willing to step out of boundary. I think that's something that Benedict has also shared. And number 13 is to cut back on alcohol expenses. So of the 13, Benedict has a last super rounding point. Which is your number 1 that resonated the most with you?
I think it would be the first one with regards to following your passion, because in the past I've always been an advocate of following your passion, but then I realized that sometimes certain passions might not actually pay the bills. You might actually not even be able to cover your basic needs by following your passion. So now I'm trying to actually build I'm trying to build my passion on the side while actually working my 9 to 5.
Understand. Understand. So maybe for myself, I also do sharing as a last point. I believe in automating everything. I think that really sticks out to me. Headspace is something that I read the biggest leaders in the world. They prioritize it. And if you can delegate, delegate. If not, you automate to systems. Nowadays, finance, we have trackers, we have apps, and bills. Moving forward, I think I can share also, e-gyro is coming on board to Singapore, which means you can set up a gyro that gets accepted immediately. So put all your bills there. Don't waste time checking bills too much, and you won't be late. So that saves you in unnecessary expenses. So hopefully this has been a great chat. With that, myself and Benedict, we wish you all the best in your financial independence journey, and we'll see you next episode. Take care and goodbye.